Welcome everyone to this week's edition of the Suffolk Sports Report. Another busy week and weekend in the pro sports world, and we got you covered. From week 4 of the NFL season to the NBA and NHL finals, we start right now.
Hey guys, Lucky here from the Boston Celtics, and you're about to watch the Suffolk Sports Report.
Oh, that's a catch. Tatum drives down and throws it down. Pressure, wow, saved by Rez on his belly. Way back it carries, and that ball is gone.
Lightning struck in Edmonton, Canada earlier this week as Tampa Bay Lightning capped off a Game 6 closeout win against the Dallas Stars in the Stanley Cup Finals. Defenseman Victor Hedman took home the 2020 Conn Smythe MVP award after scoring 10 goals and 12 assists this postseason. This is Tampa Bay's second Stanley Cup for their franchise and the first since the 2003 to 2004 season. After the game, we also got a little preview of what's to come for celebrations in this new sports world. No fans in the stands, however, didn't mean that Tampa Bay didn't indulge in fan interaction. Players took a little boat ride, as you can see, down the Hillsborough River in Tampa to make sure that fans could see them hoisting good old Stanley. Later that day, they went over to Raymond James Stadium to a crowd of over 12,000 people in socially distanced seating. The NBA Finals began in an unceremonious fashion as the Los Angeles Lakers brought a fire extinguisher in Game 1 against the Miami Heat. Miami jumped to a 23-10 first quarter lead before Kentavious Caldwell-Pope knocked down a couple momentum-shifting corner three-pointers to begin an eventual 21-5 run for the Lakers to end the quarter. It didn't get much better after, as multiple Miami players exited the game with injuries. Bam Adebayo, Jimmy Butler, and Goran Dragic all left in the midst of what would be a 73-30 scoring run for LeBron and company. Anthony Davis dominated on the boards. The two LA Stars were combined for 59 total points, with Davis outscoring the entire Miami team in second chance points with 12. Game 2 will be later today, with the Lakers currently 9.5-point betting favorites. In other NBA news, the Celtics returned to Boston this week after a disappointing end to their season down at the bubble. But it wasn't all bad, as Gordon Hayward finally got to see his newly born son. He posted this image to his social medias after many comments around the league on the beard stash he was rocking. Hayward said in an interview last month that the new style helps him with aerodynamics. Now, I know Hayward's tenure here in Boston hasn't been ideal, but the heart he's shown for this team is undeniable. Missing the birth of your child in order to come off the bench, playing over 30 minutes in a game while you're still hurt, without question, wherever his basketball journey takes him next, I want to speak on behalf of most rational Celtics fans by saying, thank you, Gordon. And now with that, it's time. Here's your weekly football recap with the Conti Countdown to Kickoff. Take it away, JD.
Thanks, Josh, and welcome back to this week's rendition of Conti Countdown to Kickoff. Let's start with our weekly look around the league. The Atlanta Falcons managed to blow another ginormous lead, this time to the Bears and no other than Nick Foles, who was put in after the Bears benched quarterback Mitch Trubisky. Foles led the Bears back from a 10-26 fourth quarter deficit and another embarrassing defeat for Falcons fans. This has led to many start calling for the firing of head coach Dan Quinn. The Bears promoted Foles to the starting role this week, as they are just the latest team in a long list to give Foles the job after their backup their starter gets injured or just plain sucks. Patrick Mahomes was the story of the Monday night matchup of AFC superpowers in the Ravens vs. Chiefs matchup. Vegas had the Chiefs as underdogs, and Mahomes was out to prove them wrong from the start. Mahomes threw for 385 yards and 4 touchdowns with a 73% completion rate, leading his team to a 34-20 victory, reminding the rest of the league that the Chiefs are still the team to beat in the AFC. Tom Brady got a second win as a Buccaneer with a 28-10 victory over the Broncos, and Aaron Rodgers came out swinging to beat the struggling New Orleans Saints. Some are saying the legendary Saints quarterback Drew Brees' age is finally catching up to him. Bills quarterback Josh Allen threw for 311 yards and 4 touchdowns and had a game-winning drive versus the Los Angeles Rams, as the Bills Mafia eagerly awaits the league he leads the Bills against the Brady-less Patriots. In the latest 2020 NFL headlines, the league postponed Sunday's Titans vs. Steelers game, as one player and staff member for the Titans tested positive for coronavirus on Thursday. The makeup date has yet to be determined. The Patriots convincingly defeated the Las Vegas Raiders Sunday by a score of 36-20. The defense held the red-hot Raiders offense to 2 touchdowns and prevented superstar running back Josh Jacobs from stepping into the end zone. The Patriots' run game was unstoppable, rushing for well over 200 yards as a group. Sony Michel had 117 yards on the ground, and Rex Burkhead had 2 rushing touchdowns along with 1 receiving. Cam Newton, however, did not have an ideal game, as he only passed for 162 yards and threw 1 god-awful interception, a forced pass that he should never have thrown. The Patriots faced the Kings of the AFC this weekend, the Kansas City Chiefs, and their quarterback, Pat Mahomes. In order to come out of this one with the win, the Patriots will need to be perfect. They will need to bring Week 2's passing game, Week 3's rushing game, and Week 1's defense. They'll be facing the best quarterback in the league, along with one of the few stadiums currently allowing fans. It's bound to be a good one, and I'll have the rundown of it next week. That's all from me. Back to you, Josh.
Now let's go to longtime contributor of the show, Di Pajeski, for his top fantasy picks and waiver claims for Week 4 of the NFL season.
All right, thanks for that, Josh. My name's Di, and I'm here to bring you Fantasy Week 4 storylines to keep an eye on. First, let's go up to Seattle and see what's up there. Oh, right, Russell Wilson. I'm sure you've heard it by now. It's become the scariest 3-word combination coming out of Seattle since the Legion of Boom. Let Russ cook. Russell Wilson in 2020 is simply built different. Just take a look at his stats. 76.7 completion percentage, 925 passing yards, and a whopping 14 touchdown passes through his first 3 games, with his only interception coming from a mishandled ball by Greg Olsen, which resulted in a Devin McCourty pick 6. Tropical barbecue is Jeff Russ's next dish as he faces the Dolphins down in Miami. So look for another big game from him there. Next, let's talk about the 49ers running backs. Fantasy owners who are wise enough to pick up the backup Niners backs after starter Raheem Mostert's MCL sprain should be happy with the production they've gotten, as Jerick McKinnon and Jeff Wilson both had a solid game against an absolute joke of a Giants defense who couldn't make a tackle to save their lives. With key offensive pieces such as Jimmy G, Deebo Samuel, and George Kittle still struggling with injuries, Kyle Shanahan will continue to rely on his creative rushing attack against Philly. So if you're looking for a solid flex option, pick up one of the Niners back if they're still available. JD mentioned it. It's kind of the elephant in the room. Let's talk about the Bears. Allen Robinson and David Montgomery are great trade targets if you're looking to upgrade your roster. We kind of saw this coming, right? Maserati Mitch is benched, and bring in the great Saint Nick. After a double-digit comeback against Atlanta, Nick Foles has been named the QB1 for the Bears. Robinson caught 10 of his 13 targets last weekend and would have had another touchdown had the referees not overturned one of them. So unless this past weekend's stats were a total anomaly, this is great news for Allen Robinson owners who will benefit from having a actually competent quarterback under center. David Montgomery owners should be excited as well, because as Patriots fans know very well, Nick Foles thrives in play action and RPO schemes and will dink and dunk his way down the field, meaning a lot of checkdown touches from Montgomery. To add to those touches in the Bears' backfield, pass-catching back Tariq Cohen tore his ACL and is out for the season, meaning more touches from Montgomery. So if you're looking for a good trade target, those two are really great candidates right now. And let's shift over to the Falcons' offense. So aside from choking in back-to-back weeks, they've come out of the gates red hot, but injuries are starting to pile up. With top pass catcher Julio Jones already hampered by a hamstring issue and fantasy sleeper Russell Gage knocked out of past weekend's game with a concussion, both receivers have returned to the practice this week, but their status is something to keep an eye on. If they do play, expect another high-scoring output from these two, as the Falcons face a pass-heavy game script going into Green Bay to face Aaron Rodgers and the Packers in a Monday night shootout. That's it for this week's fantasy storyline. Back to you, Josh.
Great job as always, you two. That's going to do it for this week's edition of the Suffolk Sports Report. We have a lot more surprises for you coming up later in the semester, so stay tuned and see you all next week.